There was no willow or even a six-stitcher in sight at the Newcastle cricket team's training last night. A novel approach has been taken to ensure the lads are fit for the country championships in October, and what better way than training with the elite Northern New South Wales soccer girls.
They're looking pretty fit, mate, so we'll have a work cut out for us, definitely.
I think they're maybe learning something from us tonight.
The Newcastle 11 went down in the country championships final last year. This summer the coaches called for improved fielding, which of course requires an increase in fitness.
We lacked a bit of concentration in certain parts, but yeah, he's really focusing on that stuff, which again, hopefully we got a big chance at taking the title this year.
And what a change of pace for Northern Pride new recruit Joanne Peters, training with a bunch of Newcastle cricketers just weeks after playing soccer for her country at the Olympics.
You don't want it all to end, but you know, I'm happy to be home and back in with the other girls here at Newcastle and Northern Pride, and you know, we're looking forward to a good season.
Todd Nardi, NBN News.
One of the prettiest and fastest growing small towns in the Hunter, Clarencetown, is bustling with activity. Just around the corner from the new supermarket, workers are rushing to finish the new road and landscaping in front of the new Regional Transaction Centre. The Newcastle Permanent Building Society has moved in along with the post office, and there'll also be a community nurse, tourist information counter, travel and real estate agents, office and conference rooms.
We've basically got funds from the federal government, and instead of leasing a building, we got the town to purchase 2 buildings, and the buildings are owned by the town.
The area's population of around 2,000 people is steadily growing, with many lured by a quieter lifestyle.
A lot of young families moving in, the schools increased in size, and as you can see, lots of new facilities now have opened up, and the town really is growing at a rate of knots. It's been terrific.
A local of 15 years standing, Mark Butler says it's crunch time for smaller towns across Australia who need to make the most of every government dollar.
Most of the towns don't survive because there's not many funds come back in the community, so they rely heavily on their local councils, which are struggling. So if we don't do it, the towns usually are disadvantaged.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Newcastle has a real soul, and I think they really are interested in supporting many things, and one of them is medical research.
From small beginnings in the late 60s, Hunter-based company Amp Control now turns over $72 million a year, making high-tech electrical products for mining, power distribution and heavy industries. They have at least 30 vacancies to fill, but can't find people with the right skills.
The company is growing and a lot of the manufacturing in the region is being successful. So it's getting the appropriate skills, not the people, but the appropriate skills to be able to sustain that growth. And the shortage ranges from power engineering right through to the trade-based people.
To fix the skills shortage, the company has struck a deal with the University of Newcastle to funnel students through a special research and development arm with a view to working for AMP Control once they graduate.
It's obviously a lot easier if there's someone in the department who knows where there's jobs and can sort of push people off, and we'll get a good selection of people coming through uni who the lecturers know are good.
It's about taking the workplace to the university and undertaking research at the place of learning. By doing that, we tap into the latest knowledge and the latest skill and bring it through into the workplace.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. Competition is fierce in this year's Newcastle Charity Doll Show. It took all day to judge the 173 entries sent in from doll and bear lovers across Australia.
They're judged with the overall look of the doll, the painting, making sure that the painting is exactly how they're supposed to be painted, then the bodies and also the clothing plays a very important part of them.
Doll makers say it can be stressful getting the fine details just right. Hundreds of hours' work and hundreds of dollars are often needed to ensure a good chance of a ribbon in the doll eat doll pastime.
Some of the dolls can take up to probably 5 weeks, 6 weeks to make. The dressing can sometimes take a lot longer. Yes, it's very intricate work in them.
The show is open tomorrow only at Newcastle City Hall. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Jet lag hardly had time to hit Karina Nolan. Instead, it was the familiar pull of a powerboat that she enjoyed today as her most recent world champion. A part of the Australian team that won bronze overall, Karina finished equal first in the slalom, only to end with silver after 2 tie-breaking runs.
Nicole Arthur from Great Britain, she outslallomed me, but it was a really good event too, and so that kind of got me more angry to go out there and get a gold.
And didn't she do it in style? In a grandstand finish, Karina saved her best till last with her final jump, a world record 45.3 metre effort.
I can't really explain it because it's been something that I've always worked for, and it was just amazing to have that feeling.
It made it a complete set of medals for the teenager, who now has to leave the skis for the books and sit her HSC.
Well, I took them to America, but I didn't really open them up.
After rewriting the record, it's on the water she wants to make a career, with college in America and eventually a spot on the professional world tour, her ultimate aim. There was little love lost between these two. Greg Tolhurst booting first points for the Tars. And while Wanderers' opening try was sparked by Greg Thompson, it was brother Graham who really laid it on. He touched twice in a raid that ended with Dan Kevill crossing to take a 7-3 lead. Not everything was falling Wanderers' way. With a try called back for a forward pass in a game where points were at a premium. A familiar side in Black Diamond AFL's decider today, with Terrigal Avoca off to a flyer against Cardiff, scoring the first 2 majors. The Hawks forced to fight back after a poor opening quarter, with David Flynn in full flight for the minor premiers. It ebbed and flowed over the closing stages. On a day not so great to be a goal umpire. It was, if you were a Hawk, Cardiff coming from behind to win by 10.
It's already vital to the media and communication industries and will soon be crucial in coal circles. The next tract of Hunter land destined for mining is under Mount Sugarloaf. The Newcastle Coal Company has been awarded a mining lease for the Tasman Underground Coal Project southeast of Kurri Kurri. It will become one of the small number of mines that continue to operate in the lower Hunter.
We've had the closure of Southland due to spontaneous combustion. This allows those miners to have jobs and allows the economic growth to go back into the community.
It's estimated 9.9 million tonnes of coal will be extracted from the site during the next 10 years.
And also the environment is going to be protected to a certain degree to ensure that there is minimal impact.
Meantime, the Mandalong mine near Morisset has been given approval for the construction of an underground conveyor system to shift coal to the Vales Point power station, taking coal trucks off the road. Todd Nardi, NBN News.
The Rams ran out full of purpose, but you couldn't match the thoroughbreds out of the gate. In his last game, Darryl Rando was looking for premiership number 8 and found Wade Headley for first points. The winger had his second of 3 for the game after another kick, as Scone raced to a 12-0 lead. That's when Barry Edwards stepped in, the Rams skipper finding room for Lee Perham and the Brooks opening try, before backing himself and winger Jay Dunn with a kick on the first tackle. It returned the perfect dividend with the home side second. Daniel Forder's finish was much easier as Musselbrook took the lead. Flying high, Darryl Rando's wing clipped Simon Harmer, who was promptly grounded. Adam Turl, though, looked more like a tank when he carried 4 across the line after half-time to extend Musselbrook's lead. The thoroughbreds were simply missing too many tackles and it meant more points. John Kelman didn't miss Rando. It sparked a swift Scone reply as they closed to within 10. But this was Musselbrook's day, and when Shane Renshall finished off for their last attacking raid, they couldn't be beaten. 34-22 winners, and the Rams were happy boys.
We've really earned this one. I tell you, this is the most satisfying day in my football career.
Then it was celebration time.
Waiting to be put to use since Stockland at Glendale opened in 1996 is a block of vacant land between the shopping centre and the Hunter Sports Centre. A development application has been lodged with the Lake Macquarie City Council for extensions of the shopping complex featuring a Kmart department store and additional car parking.
It'll take a little while to get through the paperwork and hopefully it'll come out with a recommendation for approval.
Along with the department store, the Stockland expansion would also include an auto repairs workshop, the relocation of a liquor store, along with another 18 specialty shops. Meanwhile, a development application has been lodged that would see vacant land and shops at Charlestown's Pacific Highway and Smart Street intersection turned into this. 2 9-level buildings proposed to house both residential units and retail outlets, including a pedestrian bridge above the highway. Nearby, also on the highway, Council has an application for a 5-level development, including apartments and shops, proposed for land next to the Charlestown cinemas.
Seeing a great deal of interest, a lot of investment capital going there. The Council's had quite a number of applications.
Todd Nardi, NBN News.
If the entrants were looking for a good start, they didn't find it. Down by 3 not long into the second half, David Fibbins finally broke through for the Central Coast side. But when Scott Howard made it 4 just on the hour, South was home and through to another grand final against their old rivals North. No real surprises either in the 3-track BMX Classic at the weekend, with 9-time Australian champion Luke Medill winning the series for the second successive year. The event, which was raced at Tanambit and Lake Macquarie before concluding with yesterday's final round in Terrigal, saw world junior champion Mick Fenwick finish second to the national number 1. In baseball, Phoenix has ended Belmont's 4-year domination of the Newcastle Major League with a convincing 11-6 win in the deciding 3rd game. And Newcastle Olympian Olivia Gollan has finished 9th overall in the Women's Road Cycling World Cup, which wound up in Germany at the weekend. Gollan was part of the Australian team which helped compatriot Anoni Wood win the series. The World Championship is raced later this month.
The timing of the world titles presented a challenge for the Australian and New Zealand competitors as fitness levels usually drop off in winter.
We've sort of been working for it. We knew that it was in this time, so we've sort of been training for it, and all of our fitness is pretty good.
Swansea Belmont may be the only Hunter club sending a team to the titles, but it's certainly not short of talent. Mark Bent is just 17 years old, but he's currently the under-19 state and national board champion. For the Worlds, though, he'll have to step it up another notch, as all events are open age.
I've sort of been doing a lot of open events last year just to sort of get ready for it, like racing up against the big older guys.
Lisa Wright will be out for a big showing after being overlooked for the Australian team sent over last week. But the 19-year-old from Valentine could be facing a whole other league of competitors in the Flags event.
And I don't know who's going to be there. I've heard that sometimes American track sprinters go over there, so they'll be tough, yeah.
The team will have 3 days to recover from the 24-hour flight, with competition starting on Tuesday. Jessica Phillis, NBN News.
Weatherboard and glass is all that separates these two very different worlds. This building has been operating as a preschool on the corner of Greta and Lambton Roads for over 25 years, and in that time, there's been a significant increase in traffic.
Parents are very concerned because their children are just inside that wall.
The community-based preschool has received a quote to build concrete guard posts around the building, but at $7,000 it's out of reach.
It just goes to demonstrate that these sorts of things don't come at a low price, but they need to be funded, and it's a question of whose responsibility it is and who can pay for it. It seems to be a bit of buck passing between the council and RTA. We sent a letter back in 2003, December 2003, we sent a letter to the RTA, and still you can see no actions happening.
No safety precautions anyway. Preschool staff say they've witnessed 4 crashes on this intersection since last October. In one of those accidents, a truck came to rest on the footpath just outside the preschool. Council engineers have ruled out installing a steel barrier, claiming in this instance it wouldn't meet Australian standards. However, there are plans to close the median strip at the intersection. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
After a lifetime of studying the didgeridoo, Mick Davison is about to be launched onto the world stage. He's been asked to play in New York later this month at Australian Tourism's latest campaign launch.
You had your Crocodile Dundee, he's got his big Bowie knife, you've got Steve Irwin with the crocodiles, and I thought, it's about time I went over with me Didge to give them another perspective and just to give them a look at what else is out here.
Mick spent today playing with some friends, but will fly out to the United States tomorrow, preparing to spruik about Australia's attractions, including his own Hunter region.
Telling people about everything that's here, all the stories about the Aboriginal areas, the sites, the Manning Gardens, the Lake Macquarie, the beaches, all that sort of thing around here. So it's basically letting everyone know about what a really top place we got out here.
Studying for a PhD, Mick is the first to develop a system of notation for the didge, allowing music to be composed on paper for the instrument.
These are just some of the 30 children who attend Cameron Park's special school for severely mentally and physically handicapped kids. Nurse consultant Lisa Craig heard their plight and is completing an independent assessment of their health needs. She's at a loss to know why they've been denied a nurse for so long.
I think it's been an ongoing need for many years, and I think it's quite, with the 2 recent deaths of children, I think it's definitely a high priority.
It's become somewhat of a Mexican standoff between the Education, Health and Disability departments, none of them committing funding for a nurse. In the meantime, parents say the students' health is placed at risk, with teachers left to handle it all.
I feel sorry for them because they're not qualified and they're not even allowed to do anything. And it breaks my heart, to be honest.
And the health needs of these students is so high that for some, each day they live is a bonus.
Within, I think it was 30 days of each other, there were 2 children from the school died, both from separate incidences, but it just goes to highlight the fragile nature of the children.
In contrast, the Hunter Orthopaedic School has 2 nurses funded by Hunter Health. It only has 40 students.
And the children here, we're 100 metres around the corner, are probably of a more demanding physical, and mental needs. And yet because of bureaucracy, we're just getting sort of shoved aside.
Hunter Health says it is a Department of Education issue, while the Education Department says it doesn't fund nurses, only teachers. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. It used to be a major traffic snarl for drivers travelling up and down the New South Wales coast, and it wasn't uncommon for motorists to be delayed for hours as they slowed down to a snail's pace passing through Karua during holiday time. But that'll soon be a distant memory, with the new $123 million bypass, including an 812-metre-long bridge, promising to slash travel times.
There'll be a lot of families, as well as regular travellers, who appreciate that this is no longer a choke point on the journey north or south, but you sail through at 110 kilometres an hour.
But that might cause another problem. Traffic will not only travel faster, but it'll have to go further between opportunities to refuel both vehicle and driver. As the Pacific Highway continues to bypass towns, there's a decreasing number of places to stop and revive, leading to concerns about driver fatigue.
We're happy to do what we can with the local Chamber of Commerce to make sure people pull into Karua and see that as the appropriate place to rest.
But it seems many are sceptical about that happening. 2 service stations in Karua are due to close down by the end of the month as a direct result of the bypass. And with one bypass now complete, the next traffic snarl which needs to be addressed is Bulahdelah. But Roads Minister Carl Scully says the Bulahdelah bypass could be several years down the track. And while all the politicians toured the new 10-kilometre-long dual carriageway today, the bypass won't be open to the rest of us until Wednesday. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
A family friend of General Peter Cosgrove, Vivian Dwyer, was approached by the Defence Force Chief to paint a major work of art back in 1997, which would go on to hang in the mess hall of the Royal Military College at Duntroon. The Singleton artist accepted, but it was the lead-up work which became the masterpiece.
It's when I studied the people rather than the place that I started to understand what our military training was all about.
The result, Duntroon, an artist's impression. Launched today by Singleton's adopted son, the book's a 208-page collection of illustrations and accounts from Duntroon by Ms Dwyer through times of peace and war.
There's been plenty of photographic work and plenty of historical books, but nothing which combines the eye and the gift of an artist with her evocative words.
As for that original work of art,
it will happen, but not yet. I would say that the Cosgroves will have their painting perhaps in another 12 months.
The war paint was on and the orders were being handed out, and that was just an umpire. Undefeated all season, Norths didn't want this to be the one that slipped through their fingers. The 11th successive meeting against Souths in a grand final, it was also a familiar sight that started the scoring, with record goal scorer John Finance posting in just the second minute. Norths thought they'd scored the equaliser, only to have it disallowed, while it was Wade Sharrock that denied them a second time on goal. Sean Kelly wished he could have had this chance again. Sharrock, though, was the key, keeping Norths out again. And Kelly soon made amends as Souths caught them on the break. He beat 2 before Stu Fletcher stretched out for a 2-0 lead. Needing a saviour, North skipper Dave Willett gave his side hope, But it was scoring goals that was the problem. Sharrock again the man for Souths as they won 2-0.
And 5 years on, many former workers have gathered to remember their time at the steelworks. Since the industrial giant closed its Newcastle operation in 1999, piece by piece the buildings were demolished. Now the land remains bare, but in the minds of these workers it won't be forgotten in a hurry. Easts are usually quick out of the blocks, but the game was just 3 minutes old when Mick Noonan scored for the Wanderers. After trading penalty goals, Tonga Tua levelled it when he made the two Blues pay for a mistake. Dave Turner gave the Wanderers a 2014 halftime lead, which they converted into a blah-blah point win and the premiership.
If you missed the chance to test out the new Kurua bypass on its first day of operation today, here's the next best thing. This was the view from the front seat of the $123 million roadway. And what a big difference 10 kilometres of dual carriageway can make. Memories of long delays now faded as motorists sailed through at 110 kilometres an hour. And many were left grinning from ear to ear after their first experience on the bypass.
I thought it was terrific. It's certainly going to save a lot of time in the holiday period. I think it's, we did it in about 5 minutes.
We thought it was wonderful. It was a job well done. The road's beautiful and it was a lovely run.
Some even planned a special day trip to check out the new section of highway.
Travel from East Maitland up to here, have a look, spend the day up touring around the area, Tea Gardens, Hawk's Nest, and then head back home again.
And they certainly weren't disappointed.
Oh, great improvement, great improvement.
Meanwhile, in Kurua, you could almost hear a pin drop as residents and businesses adjusted to life without the traffic and the noise. The main street resembled a ghost town, while the once bustling service stations were empty. But some have pledged their loyalty to Kurua, saying they'll be leaving it on their travel itinerary.
We decided to come into Kurua and get something to eat, and maybe, I think we've got enough juice to get us to Hexham, but we always plan to come into Kurua.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It's now getting close, 1 week until the grand final. 4 teams left to battle it out, and Saturday night at 7:45 sees the Panthers and the Bulldogs clash at Aussie Stadium. Now last year when Penrith won the grand final, I thought that Pulatua and Nullarbor were really the heart and soul of Penrith efforts. Now this week, both these guys have been named in their side, but they're only a slim chance of playing. Both these guys are injured, and they're lacking match fitness and consistency. So even if they do play, they will struggle with the pace. Now the Bulldogs, who are equal competition leaders, have a lethal left edge in attack, and a team that's made more tackle busts than anyone else in the NRL. The only one injury concern to Braithen Astor, who again is more than likely to be playing. But for my mind, the big advantage for the Bulldogs is Price and O'Mealy, who have been the best front rowers all year, and I think they will inspire the Bulldogs to win. Now on Sunday afternoon at 3:45, Telstra Stadium, the Roosters take on the Cowboys as they continue their history-making run. Both teams have similar intensity and fitness levels, and they play a real in-your-face type of football. But at the end of the day, the Roosters have probably more strike power and a little bit more skill being the major factor there. Now the two exciting fullbacks in the game come up against each other in this game, Anthony Minichiello and Matt Bowen. Now Minichiello scored 17 tries, 22 line breaks, 121 tackle busts, while Matt Bowen's had 11 tries, 24 line breaks and 96 tackle busts. Now both these guys are packing plenty of fast twitch fibre. They are dead set lethal, but I think the Roosters will come away with a win. I think common sense will prevail. I'm tipping a Bulldogs-Roosters grand final for next week. Enjoy the weekend's football. I'll see you all next week.
It's these everyday life skills which many of us take for granted. Using an ATM to withdraw cash or check your bank balance, buying a stamp and posting a letter, even ordering a drink at your local cafe. For some people, such things don't come easily. These three intellectually handicapped students, Jeff, Maria and Beverly, along with 12 others, have been diligently learning everyday living skills over the last 7 months in a specifically designed free course run by Life Activities.
Teaching these sort of courses allow them to improve their independent living skills in a range of areas, from budgeting, cooking, shopping to community access and awareness.
And today all that hard work was capped off with the 15 students graduating, rewarded with certificates.
Now, I guess one of the key things about the entire course is about having a normalised learning experience based on adult learning principles, and I guess today is probably the pinnacle of the entire course, where they actually get recognition for their achievements.
Many of these students are about to move out of their family home and so need to be able to fend for themselves. They say this course has now set them up to live independently for the rest of their lives. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The tragedy unfolded at the Royal Newcastle Aero Club at Rutherford just after 9 this morning. Emergency services were called after a motorised hang glider crashed soon after takeoff.
We're investigating what that problem is. We don't know if it's mechanical or human error at this stage.
The victim, a 50-year-old Madawi father, was an experienced pilot who owned 2 aeroplanes, but tragically this was his maiden solo voyage in a motorised glider. It's believed he died on impact.
Very tragic, especially for his family and the others involved.
Investigations into how the aircraft came to grief are continuing. Lower Hunter detectives and an independent expert from the Hang Gliding Federation of Australia are trying to piece together the circumstances that caused the glider to plummet to the ground.
Dr Lyons, our forensic pathologist, has just arrived on the scene. He'll be examining the body along with our crime scene police, and the mechanical experts will be coming shortly.
A name is expected to be released tomorrow. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
Soccer fans and officials have almost lost count the number of times the release date for winning tenders in the new league were to be released. The most recent was to be this Wednesday, but while the ASA will vote on who makes it, they won't announce which 8 teams made the cut until October 14. It doesn't bother Newcastle United, who were all but guaranteed a place, but it has meant a further delay in the arrival of their coach, the high-profile Terry Venables.
We have to have him here after the announcement.
But a minor hip operation also comes into consideration, and all the time the clock will be ticking to sign players.
He's looking to put his operation back, say, till later on this year, but we expect him here in probably October, early November now.
Since September, the number of people infected by influenza has skyrocketed, and experts believe it's the increased incidence of the virus in the general community that has forced 4 Hunter nursing homes to temporarily close.
That's the picture we're getting from general practitioners. They're seeing people come into their surgeries. These are folk who are not living in aged care facilities. They're their mums and dads and young people living around town who are coming down with an illness that's consistent with influenza.
While Hunter Health has refused to name the 4 privately operated aged care facilities that have closed, it has confirmed that 2 of the facilities have residents with influenza A. That's the acute, highly contagious flu that killed 10 elderly residents at the Bethel Aged Care Facility in Waratah earlier this month. Whether it's exactly the same strain is yet to be determined.
Look, we can't confirm that with 100% accuracy, but that's really likely. We know it's influenza A in 2 of the nursing homes. Influenza A comes in a range of different varieties, so we won't get that final confirmation for some time.
Hunter Health has contacted all aged care facilities in the area, driving home the need for infection control measures to be put in place if symptoms of the illness emerge. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
The theme for the Pirates' inaugural season was all about fun. This season, that'll only come with results.
This year is definitely business.
And good business means winning, and the Pirates get their first chance for points on Thursday night at home against the Brisbane Bullets. But coach Adrian Hurley warns don't expect too much too early, given he's assembled almost an entirely new lineup and endured a disruptive pre-season at best.
Win or lose on Thursday night, there's still 31 games to go, and it's what really matters is where you are when the 32nd game's played.
There's little doubting the talent-laden side can make an impression, with the playoffs a real consideration.
I look at it, we got a lot more tools in the toolbox. It's up to Adrian to see how he uses the tools.
He hasn't yet settled on how to use new import Brian Weathers. Flying into the country only yesterday, the 23-year-old had his first real team hit out today, and it's not clear if he'll start against the Bullets. What is sure, experience and resolve will be key factors this season.
Been in this situation before, and we've got a good feel around the group. There's, I guess, there's a few people looking to prove a point.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. Given the scrutiny that comes with a post like Michael Hagan's, he's used to copping criticism. There's no doubting a massive injury toll played a huge part of the team missing the finals this year, but he's been forced to defend calls that player discipline and attitude are also to blame.
Our players are expected to do more at training and in the community than anybody, so...
As for those who say he's too soft on his players...
People just need to accept that the year wasn't as good as it should have been, but you just got to live with that and get on with the next one, mate. I guess if it came from the right people, you can take that on board.
There's no doubting the board will make their thoughts known tomorrow night when the coach presents his season review. It'll be the same meeting that will decide if Hagan takes on the Queensland coaching role for a second term.
I'm at a stage where if we can put some things in place, I'd like to accept it.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
The ringing of the Adolphe's bell was a happy occasion today, but 100 years ago when the French four-master was stranded at the mouth of the harbour, it was ringing in distress. Alex Costa and Mary Los Coco's grandfathers were both brave crew members of the harbour lifeboat Victoria, which rescued all 32 French sailors.
Ringing the bell on behalf of all the descendants of all the people involved in the rescue. I'm very proud to be honoured to ring the bell.
A crowd gathered on the Stockton breakwater next to the remains of the ship today at 10:20, the time the barque's fate was sealed after a 3-month voyage from Antwerp.
A southerly gale, and as she proceeded up the coast, the gale became a lot stronger.
As the ship was rounding Nobbies, being towed by the steam tugs Victoria and Hero, the Victoria's tow line parted. The Hero couldn't hold the weight of the big ship all on its own, and a few broadside swells later, the Adolphe was on the oyster bank. Pieces from the Adolphe and other ships were displayed at the Stockton Prawners Club, including a scale model of the ship made by local historian Ron Hogue. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
It's a story which has reached all corners of the globe. The James Hardie saga, with thousands of sufferers of asbestos-related diseases coming forward to seek compensation from the building products company. And with the publicity has come a newfound understanding of the health risks of asbestos. Already that awareness is being translated into a marked drop in the number of buyers looking at fibro houses.
If they have a choice, they'll tend to buy the brick house rather than the fibro house, and so that will make the prices drop.
And so those owners trying to sell their fibro homes can expect some difficult times ahead.
When they're looking for homes, there's certainly already a reticence for people to look at a fibro home, and we're seeing them being on the market longer.
Graham White, who's been in the real estate business for 36 years, says houses built before 1982 could contain asbestos.
The best type of home to buy would be a recently built brick home, but we can't all afford that. And if you're in the $200,000 to $300,000 bracket in this area, then you'll be restricted to a home that's probably fibro.
If that's the case, he warns owners not to renovate by themselves. Instead, call in the experts. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The grim find was made outside a block of flats on the corner of Charlton Street and Robinson Avenue at 7 this morning. Police believe the 40-year-old man may have been dead for several hours before his body was located by a neighbour on his way to work. While there was no obvious cause of death, Waratah detectives are awaiting the result of a post-mortem before they can officially rule out foul play.
It grows stronger each year, and this year's State Women's Cricket Championships at Maitland was no exception, with some 200 cricketers from juniors to opens padding up. Having beaten them earlier in the carnival, Hunter again had Sydney Blue on the ropes early in their innings in the Open final. Spinner Laura Clulow and keeper Jenny Wallace combining twice to leave Sydney 2 for 28. Olivia Thornton returned without troubling the scorers at all after a great snare. Sarah Alley, though, weighed in with some quick runs to steady the ship for Sydney. But an inspired change from State rep Leah Poulton paid off first ball as she removed Alley. Poulton, Sarah Andrews and keeper Jenny Wallace will all now front up for country against City in what will be their last chances to impress for New South Wales team selection.
The trainee has come across a section of the mine shaft where the wall has collapsed. He's gone to have a sticky beak, but probably shouldn't have. The roof has collapsed and the miner is in trouble. He should have walked around the obstacle, clicking on it to identify it as a hazard. It's accidents like these the virtual reality training is hoping to eliminate. Developed by mining engineer students at the University of New South Wales, the simulation technology is so flexible it can be easily adapted to imitate any open cut or underground mine.
So the mine plan for, say, West Wallsend, we could put that onto virtual reality and you could have the miners who work at West Wallsend actually experience the conditions that apply out there to make it that much more real for them.
As well as teaching miners to identify hazards, the simulation outlines actions to prevent injuries. For now, the virtual reality experience is visual and oral, but there are plans to make it even more realistic.
You can change the contents of the atmosphere, you can make it rain, you can put smoke, you can make the smoke come from a certain direction, you can make the ground slippery.
The next step is to develop similar virtual reality lecture theatres at the 3 other mines rescue stations across the state. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
Lawn bowls could have been filed in the category of extreme sport in Newcastle today. Extreme in terms of endurance, that is. 6 bowlers started a quest to spend a mammoth 57 consecutive hours on the greens. If they make the Sunday afternoon target, the Hunter men will eclipse the lawn bowls playing record by 2 hours. But right now, that must seem a lifetime away.
When do you think you'll hit the wall, you 6 blokes?
Oh, probably about an hour and a half's time. No, realistically, probably sometime, I'd say 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow morning.
There's plenty of motivation to push through that barrier. The record attempt is also raising money for the Northern New South Wales branch of Canteen. Kids from the Cancer Charity providing moral support for the bowlers today.
At the present moment, the record's 54 hours, 35 minutes. But at the end of the day, the big thing we want to achieve over $20,000 for Canteen.
One thing is for sure, a self-imposed alcohol ban means the record chasers are sure to be among the first lawn bowlers to go 3 days of play without a beer. Todd Nardi, NBN News.
The situation getting to the stage where we look like commencing aerial spraying next week, and that'll be in the area around probably Wunderbar, Tambar Springs.
A member of the South African men's amateur golf team, 17-year-old Matthew Kent arrived at the Oaks with a 1-shot lead on the final day and the tag of firm favourite. Kent had an erratic front 9, a triple bogey on the second, evened out by a string of birdies. Also well and truly in the mix, Cessnock's own Michael Clark,
who carries a Fortunate Sporting name this week and pushed the leaders all the way. But it was Sydney's Adam Downton who was causing the South African tournament leader the most problems. The 16-year-old's touch around the greens was almost impeccable, Downton finishing at 9 under par for a very convincing 6-shot victory. Meantime, in the girls' field, Kate Thomas from Bathurst and Coonabarabran's Rebecca Flood were joint leaders at 6 over for the last day, but South African champion Ashley Simon finished with a classy round of 71 to win by 6 strokes, stealing the prestigious Jack Newton International Classic from the local girls.
And if you ask any kid in Australia, no matter what state they were from, which tournament's their favourite, most of them will say this.
Todd Nardi, NBN News.